Welcome, everybody. There's a lot of old Fairbanks here. Welcome, everyone, to the Noel Wien Centennial celebration. We are so glad you have gathered to join us for this wonderful community celebration. We're going to begin by welcoming Boy Scout Troop 38 for the presentation of the colors, followed by the pledge, the national anthem, and the Alaska State Song. Please join me to welcome Troop 38. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we're going to welcome Joy McDougall with the Sweet Adelines to lead us in the national anthem.
Don't be concerned, because I am a Sweet Adeline. I'm starting it much lower than you're used to hearing it. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Remain standing. I will lead you in the Alaska State Flag Song when they're finished. Eight stars of gold on a field of blue, Alaska's flag, may it mean to you the blue of the sweet, the evening sky, the mountain lakes and the flowers nearby, the gold of the early Sardo springs, the precious gold of the hills and streams, the brilliant stars in the northern sky, the Bear, the Dipper, and shining on the great North Star with its steady light, o'er land and sea, a beacon bright, Alaska's flag through state of Alaska. We all love it.
Thank you, Joy. That was beautiful. Now we're going to have the Native Community Land Acknowledgement by my lifelong friend, Shauna Hildebrand.
You can have a seat. Good evening. My name is Shauna Hildebrand. I am the daughter of Edith and Daryl Hildebrand. We are from a small village along the Yukon River called Mulatto. While my family and cultural, traditional roots lie with my hometown, Fairbanks has been my home for a majority of my life. Aviation runs deep in my family. My father and my late grandfather were pilots in the most rural parts of Alaska. So I grew up flying in small two-seater Super Cubs to the jetliners that would take off across the road on the daily. As the daughter of a bush pilot and an Alaska Native woman from interior Alaska, it gives me great honor to acknowledge the indigenous lands we are standing on today. Our lands and waters are interwoven into every fiber of our being, creating a strong connection to the areas in which we are from. The Dana people of the interior have been the traditional land keepers for the land and waters, honoring the gifts that they provide for sustenance and survival. We thank our elders, our ancestors who have come before us for teaching us our culture and traditions so we may continue to steward our lands and waters for our future generations. Thank you for allowing us to honor our people and the land this evening.
Thank you, Shauna. Next, we're going to have an invocation with my friend Rabbi Eisenberg. His family's been coming here for 35 years. Rabbi?
Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, God of our fathers and God of our mothers, God of all of our ancestors and God of all people. We stand on this beautiful windy day. It's called Ruach Elohim, it's the Spirit of God. So in 1918, about the time Noel Wien was beginning to learn to fly, Irving Berlin wrote lyrics on the cusp of World War I, and then he made a revision on those lyrics at the cusp of World War II in 1938. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. As we gather today to dedicate this time and this place, we think of so many blessings. We also think of those in need of help, those in need of healing. And so we pray for each and every one of them as we gather together and ask for God's blessings. Let us say amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Today we are all going to feel good about where we live and why we choose to live here. We're going to admire the mental toughness, self-reliance, and true grit of those who came before us. The story of Noel Wien's daring aviator life culminated in many milestones. Flying nonstop in a biplane with no cab, not much brakes, no radar, and no weather information from Anchorage to Fairbanks in July of 1924 is just one of those milestones in a storied life. Thank heavens the smoke is cleared. Woo! We got a great day. We got a great day. And for all you climate people, both for and against, it was so smoky 100 years ago in the interior because Fairbanks has been burning for lightning strikes for hundreds and hundreds of years that Noel had to follow the newly completed 1923 Alaska Railroad to make the final leg of the journey from Indiana to Fairbanks. We are glad he did, because Noel stayed and his family stayed, many Wiens stayed. And And we have fifth generation Wiens in our audience today, and maybe sixth generation. And Wiens who are commercial pilots and Wiens who are visiting from far away. Can we have a round of applause to recognize the longevity of the Wien family here in Alaska? Now let me recognize and introduce our speakers for today. Governor Dunleavy is here. Lieutenant Governor Dahlstrom is here, who chairs the Alaska State Historical Commission. Senator Lisa Murkowski is with us. Senator Dan Sullivan is with us. And of course, Richard and Sally Wien are here. For those of you concerned that this is a partisan roster of Republicans speaking, you should know that last September, to honor and remember the horrible tragedy of 9/11, President Biden stopped at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson and spoke to our troops in a hangar. AUP, the great local production company here in Fairbanks, responsible for this stage, they erected this stage for the president then. They brought it back to Fairbanks and set up the same stage for us. AUP told me they refer to this as the Biden stage. So rest assured, this is a nonpartisan event. Also in the audience are many, many members of the Pioneers of Alaska. These people, the Pioneers of Alaska, collectively built Alaska. Can we give a round of applause to the Pioneers of Alaska? Plus, did you know that both Noel and his son Richard are both members of the Pioneers of Alaska, and that Lloyd Pike, as another pioneer, signed Richard's application for membership? My family is also here, Mary, who I love so much, and our daughter Jules Ruth. Thank you for coming. Thank you, guys. A lot of local elected officials are here, and especially two wonderful friends and great Alaskans, both of them 91 years old. Former Governor and First Lady Frank and Nancy Murkowski are here. And we have a handheld mic. The governor would like to address us with the Wien story. It's not in our itinerary, but we're super excited. Thank you all for coming. As we learn more of our shared history, thank you to Joni Skilbred, who organized all this right from the beginning, Fairbanks' finest historian. Please, can we have a round for Joni? She keeps our history alive. And finally, thanks to all the people that I work with. Thanks to the Pikes Hotel and restaurant staff for their tireless efforts. What a beautiful, organized effort. I'm just so proud of everyone I work with. Thank you. As for why we are all gathered specifically at this site, at the boat launch, at Pikes Landing, well, today, Pikes is not just the caterer, but we are actually part of the story. You see, Fairbanks, like every community across Alaska in the United States, is held together by threads of shared history. These threads are intertwined, binding our knowledge and appreciation for the past with this historic gathering we know as Pikes Landing. These threads are comprised of the physical development of Pikes Landing, Pikes homestead that surrounds it, and the evolution of the usages of this historic place. This site has an interesting history, and it began with the original use of this part of the Chena River by the local Athabascans, who had a nearby fish camp that later became known as Chena Village. It was located near the confluence of the Chena and Tanana rivers. For years, going back further than their collective memories can go, this stretch of the river was used by them for travel and as an important part of their culture of a subsistence lifestyle. If I'm saying this properly, with permission of Eliza Jones, who wrote the dictionary, in the dialect of Kayakuk Nanakanaka, you say it phonetically like this: Ni ha na ha di disht sok kanak ha del host. And it means, a gathering place where they speak to each other. For us non-natives in Alaska, we measure time differently. Our history is still in decades or centuries, far less than the many, many generations by which our Athabascan friends see time. But this is how we see Pikes Landing, as a gathering place, as we are gathered here today. The beginning of the intertwining of the Noel Wien story and the Lloyd Pike story began when Pikes Landing was established in 1942, when Lloyd Pike noticed a brand new road had been built along this stretch of the Chena River to connect the new aviation towers, which were that way, being constructed, that connected this area we see around us now with the Weeks Field Airport several miles that way, the current site of the Noel Wien Library. This was the beginning of Airport Way, the 4-lane highway behind us, paralleling the Chena River, which today is a main highway artery serving the city of Fairbanks. As soon as the gravel road was constructed, Wien Alaska Airlines began transporting their float planes from Weeks Field to this place for use as a water runway for their heavier cargo flights. This caught the attention of Lloyd Pike, who was looking for an opportunity to apply for a homestead site. At that same time, an article in the Fairbanks Daily News-Miner called for a new riverboat landing to be established just upriver from the Chena pumping station, known today as the wonderful restaurant, the Chena Pump House. Because the water in the Chena at that time was consistently too low for commercial boat traffic to make it any further upriver. Sternwheeler operators like George Black, who owned 6 sternwheelers, went to the Daily News-Miner in 1941 and advised the editorial board, because of the non-navigability of the Chena River, freight would have to be offloaded in Nenana 50 miles away and trucked to Fairbanks if the community would not build a 3.5-mile road to town. But Mr. Black said he and other sternwheeler operators knew a homesteader who would let them use his property. This homesteader was Lloyd Pike, and his homestead became Pikes Landing. Lloyd Pike decided to stake a 160-acre homestead on this site in July 1942 because it had great river access with a road nearby, making it a natural place for a new boat landing and existing float plane usage by Wien Alaska Airlines. Pikes Landing has served the Fairbanks area since that time by giving full public access through private property of Lloyd Pike, thus the name Pikes Landing. This tradition of public access across private land has been continuous here since 1942 and still goes on today, 82 years later. If you look at this photograph, which Richard Wien provided to me last October, and that's when I realized that potentially we were sitting at a historical site. It's a 1941 photograph of Noel Wien's Fairchild float plane being unloaded at the place that became Pikes Landing. If you were up close, or if my photo was larger, you can turn around this way, please. If my photo was larger, you would see this little boy. This little boy, 6 or 7 years old. This is Richard Wien then, and this is Richard Wien today. Pikes Landing began as a low, muddy spot along the riverbank. Then over the next several years, it was improved. By 1948, a bar and restaurant was opened that way that was called the Airport Club because it served the float plane traffic, the boating traffic, and due to its location near to the proposed Fairbanks International Airport, which was not there yet, but was to be constructed soon. The property was further developed with picnic and camping areas, a playground, and upgrades to the boat landing. The stretch of the river was also designated as a federal seaplane base and remains a registered seaplane base to this day. And it was considered the home of the Fairbanks Outboard Racing Association, who maintained Pikes Landing shoreline for Lloyd Pike. This June, we just celebrated the 63rd running of the Yukon 800 boat race. There's the sign that used to hang on Sampson Hardware, right there. In the 1940s and 50s through today, Pikes Landing became a favorite place for summer social events because of the location, the river access, and all the outdoor amenities that had been built up. You can show me that picture behind there, please. On July 4th, 1958, that would be the day after tomorrow, 66 years ago, the annual Wien, Alaska Airlines employee picnic was held at Pikes Landing. Joni Skilbred and I found this. It was up at the Rasmussen Library at UAF, where they preserve all of our history and all of our treasures. This was front page news in the next day's edition of the Fairbanks Daily News Miner. There was a big photograph of the event right here. It was above the fold, back when the News Miner looked like the New York Times. But they do better reporting. Amen to that. The photo caption here listed the menu items, which gave me and Ursula was sitting way in the back over there. It gave me and Ursula at the hotel the idea of replicating the same menu 66 years later. We decided to invite a few hundred people with the consent of Richard and Sally Wien for a free barbecue, and then we thought, let's have some interesting speakers. And that's how we got here today. And by the way, thanks to Mayor Dave Pruse, the legacy son of the second owner of Pikes Landing, Don Pruse, for the 300 pounds of delicious barbecue ribs that he made us. Mayor Pruse, thank you very much. We hope a bunch of you enjoyed our Wien, Alaska Airlines 1958 style barbecue. It was great. And Richard will tell you he wasn't there because the family had him somewhere far, far away. Also little known is back in the 60s, the use of Pikes Landing took on a whole new role when it began service right here as the main docking base for the Binkley family's riverboat discovery tour operations. That was in 1964. That's the same year I was born at St. Joseph's Hospital. At that time, the construction of the University Avenue Bridge had cut off the Binkley riverboat access because their dock and boarding was on the wrong side of the bridge. Once again, Lloyd Pike to the rescue. But what Lloyd couldn't save was the damage from the 1967 Fairbanks flood. It was devastating, as it was for all of us and all of the pioneers that go back to that time. All of Lloyd Pike's wooden buildings and his original boat launch, the original Pikes Landing, were swept away. But like a lot of tough, resilient Alaskans, and there's many of us still here, right? This patch of asphalt, Lloyd rebuilt. Lloyd rebuilt this new boat launch that we are speaking from 55 years ago. And in 1969, that's because of Noel Wien, right there. That's why. And in 1969, Lloyd built a new log cabin restaurant. As we found in another News Miner article, and he said Captain Jim Binkley was offering free boat rides to the pioneers, and Lloyd Pike said, come for free food at the new Pikes Landing, 500 feet downriver from the old Pikes Landing. The name Airport Club was changed to Pikes Landing Bar and Restaurant, and here we are today. Since that time, the property has changed hands 3 times. Lloyd Pike sold it to Don Pruse in 1977, who improved it by tearing down outhouses and putting in plumbing. We're all grateful. The mayor will tell you that he was the one who filled in the outhouses, and his brother Dana was the one who rested on the shovel. Don Pruse sold it to Guy and Lillian and Chuck. For those of you who remember them from 1985, that's when Chef Jeff Brooks came to work here. He's a partner of mine in the restaurant. He's on the roof. Superman. He's here for Jeff Brooks. They added acres owners of the old Lloyd Pike homestead on both sides of the restaurant, and they added our deck and dining room. Then they sold Pikes Landing to me in 1999. I was a much younger man. And I built the hotel. I was fortunate enough to build the hotel, and including this summer, the new Wing World. It's not a restaurant, and it's dedicated to Noel Wien. What has made Pikes Landing great and a gathering place for natives and non-natives all these decades is public access across private land for this boat launch that we stand on in its 55th year, and it will go on in perpetuity.